During the first Avengers film, the superhero team take on the alien forces of Thanos led by the god of mischief, Loki. However, the Avengers are able to quite easily defeat this foe after Iron Man directs a nuclear warhead into a portal, seemingly destroying the invading aliens. But what if the alien force had been more powerful and could not be repelled with a singular nuclear weapon? What if the invading alien force had been the Empire from Star Wars? Before we start this matchup, we need some basic rules. To prevent too much complication, we will leave out the more overpowered characters that have been recently introduced. We will assume that the Avengers team is the same one that repelled the Chitari during the first Avengers film. We will also assume that for whatever reason, the Empire will not use the Death Star on Earth and will simply be trying to take over this planet rather than destroying it through the use of superweapons or orbital bombardment. The Empire will bring a fleet similar in size to the one used at the Battle of Endor, the largest battle during the Galactic Civil War. The Empire will also have Darth Vader and Palpatine at their disposal. Before we get into the matchup itself, we must quickly explore the abilities of both factions. As we have talked about the Empire at length on this channel, we will first take a look at the Avengers. An incredibly lethal assassin, Natasha Romanoff was trained from a young age by the KGB in various forms of martial arts, espionage and acrobatics. Formidable with many kinds of weapons, Black Widow was able to go toe-to-toe with superpowered beings, despite not having any abilities herself. She was also an excellent tactician and was a core member of the Avengers team. Next up, we have Hawkeye, an excellent marksman. Hawkeye used a specialized bow and arrow to take down his enemies. Some of his arrows have the ability to explode, making them especially potent against more powerful or multiple enemies. Just like Black Widow, Hawkeye was a superb assassin, was trained in a multitude of different martial arts and had mastered the use of several melee and ranged weapons, including swords, firearms and knives. Next is Captain America, the first actual superhero on this list. Enhanced by a super soldier serum during World War II, Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, benefited from heightened levels of regeneration, speed, strength, intelligence and reflexes. The de facto leader of the Avengers, Steve Rogers was a masterful tactician, with an ability to inspire people with his speeches. Armed with a vibranium shield, Captain America was highly proficient at using this as both a ranged and melee weapon, and could use this as a sort of boomerang to take on many enemies at once. Next up, we have a personal favourite of mine, Iron Man. As well as some of the more obvious abilities such as flying and projecting powerful beams of energy, Iron Man also possessed a range of secret weapons that could be deployed against his enemies, including lasers, energy blades, and smart missiles. Iron Man's armor also had a variety of defensive capabilities such as energy shields. On top of his armor, Iron Man was an absolute genius, quite easily solving extra-dimensional time travel in Avengers Endgame. Now we are getting into some of the more powerful members of the group. Hulk is undoubtedly one of the strongest beings in the Marvel Universe, even going toe-to-toe with Thanos for a few seconds, a feat few would be able to achieve. The angrier he gets, the stronger he gets, meaning as enemies tire of fighting him, he will only be increasing in size and power. As well as size and strength, Hulk possesses superhuman regenerative abilities and is able to heal from wounds in mere seconds. During the attack on Earth by Loki, Hulk is seen killing many smaller enemies, absorbing their fire as though it is nothing. Of course, Hulk is just one half of this character, with Bruce Banner possessing genius level intellect on par with Tony Stark. The final Avenger from the first film is Thor. An Asgardian, Thor possesses extreme strength, stamina and speed, far more than even Captain America and almost on a level with Hulk. What makes Thor the most powerful Avenger is his hammer Mjolnir. This could create and control lightning. It could also be used to summon storms, allowing the weapon to conjure even more powerful lightning bolts from the sky. As a group, these individuals were exceptionally good at working together, often using their powers in conjunction with one another to overwhelm and confuse enemies. The Empire has control over countless worlds and people, having access to almost unlimited resources. As we explored in the Empire vs. a Dyson Sphere video, legends and canon numbers for the Imperial Navy do differ, often significantly. However, both legends and canon agree that there were just over 30 Imperial Star Destroyers active during the Battle of Endor, as well as Vader's Dreadnought the Executor. If we add up the combined strength of the forces stationed on board these ships, we get roughly 350,000 personnel. The vast majority of these would be armed with an E-11 blaster, although the level of skill using these weapons was generally not very high. The Imperials would also have access to several thousand TIE fighters, all of which were fitted with turbo lasers. The Empire's most valuable asset in this battle would be its leaders Darth Vader and of course Emperor Palpatine. Cybernetically enhanced with advanced technology as well as dark side alchemy, Darth Vader was the most successful Jedi killer in the galaxy, single-handedly killing hundreds of them after the Clone Wars. A master in the Form 5 lightsaber style, also known as the Way of the Krayt Dragon, Vader also incorporated other forms of lightsaber combat into his style, making him a precise yet brutal opponent. Vader was also one of the most powerful dark side users to ever exist, and was famously highly proficient in the use of Force choke and telekinesis. He was also able to use the Force to increase his speed faster than that of a regular human, a feat that is even more impressive when we consider the weight of his armor and cybernetics. This made Vader an especially deadly opponent, with the strength of a droid and the Force powers and cunning of a Sith Lord. Despite Vader's immense power, his abilities pale in comparison to his master. Most notably, Palpatine made use of Force Lightning, and was so proficient in its use he could instantly vaporize his enemies. So now we have briefly explored the capabilities of both factions, who would ultimately win. The Imperial force, numbering in the hundreds of thousands, would of course outnumber the Avengers by many orders of magnitude. However, it is likely that Iron Man and Thor would be able to take out many of the transport ships before they had a chance to land. This would dramatically reduce the number of troops that would actually get to the ground. However, the sheer number would mean that even with poor tactics, a significant portion of their force would be able to push a ground attack against the Avengers. This is where Vader or Palpatine would really come into their own. The Sith's Force abilities would prevent any of the less powerful Avengers from getting anywhere near them, and it is very likely that Hawkeye, Black Widow, and even Captain America would be killed at this point. Even Iron Man may be in danger. Without protection through Force sensitivity, non-Force users were in danger of being Force choked, crushed, or electrocuted. Some of the more powerful Avengers, most notably Thor and Hulk, would likely be impervious to such attacks, or would at least not be killed by them. It's easy to imagine a showdown between Thor, the God of Thunder, and Palpatine, the Master of Force Lightning, while Vader and the Hulk battle it out elsewhere. I believe the Hulk would ultimately be beaten by Vader through the use of the Force and his skill with a lightsaber. A fight between Thor and Palpatine would be much more of a close match, and I actually think in a one-on-one scenario, it is likely that Palpatine would be beaten by the Asgardian. However, Palpatine would have a massive military at his disposal, as well as a variety of nefarious Sith abilities that would confuse the often weak-minded God of Thunder. So ultimately, what do I think? I think that despite the Avengers' best efforts, they would be beaten 9 times out of 10. I think the only way they could possibly beat the Empire is through killing Vader or Palpatine. However, without some of the more powerful characters that have been introduced into the MCU, I think that this would be almost impossible for them to achieve. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And if you want more sci-fi verses like this one, make sure to check out this playlist here. Thanks for watching guys, and may the Force be with you.